You're watching The Citizen Report. Real, in-depth American.
Welcome to The Citizen Report. I'm Jonathan Shannon, and thank you for joining me tonight. As always, this newscast is real, in-depth American. So some breaking news actually in the last couple of hours, and I got word of this a little after 9 o'clock this evening. I believe around 8:47, I'll double check later, but shortly before 9 p.m. Eastern time here this evening over the Potomac River, and this is technically speaking inside District of Columbia, so this is a Washington, D.C. proper event. And I got word of this, and I was in another part of Knoxville, and I, put it simply, made haste to get back here as soon as I sort of got my head on straight with respect to what was going on. So I've put together some initial information. There's not a lot. I do have in the background one of the local news channels. One of the benefits of our cable that we have here is I can actually tune in to one of the Washington, D.C., since they're commonly owned, NBC4 to be exact. Comcast owns them, and that's our cable provider. So I'm able to tune in to their sort of their Peacock version, if you will, of their news channel. And like I said, I do have some information here. Obviously, this is a developing situation, and it does not look good. And I'm just going to try to go in the order of importance, more or less. That, of course, is somewhat subjective, but I'm going to put up, to start with, the White House press secretary has just put out, and this literally just came down moments ago before I went live here. This is, by the way, my first live broadcast, and since I sort of in this iteration of the Citizen Report, and I wasn't planning for this to be the first one, but decided to go ahead and move that up and see how we go with this. So let me go ahead and read this out to you. And this is from Karoline Leavitt, again, White House press secretary. This is a statement made by President Trump. Quote, "I have been fully briefed on the terrible accident which just took place at Reagan National Airport. May God bless their souls. Thank you for the incredible work being done by our first responders. I am monitoring the situation and will provide more details as they arise." That, again, is from President Trump. Obviously, the President of the United States, anything that's said of an event like this takes priority. I'm glad it came through because it's literally almost seconds before I came on with this. So let me say next. Let me kind of give you a little bit of a background of the setting here. So, and I have the added benefit of having flown into this airport also on perhaps this exact same, not the jetliner, but the type of jetliner. I'll get to that in a moment. But let me actually go to this now also. And if you'll bear with me a second here. Okay, this is the X account for American Airlines. Let me see if I can put it up in full, if I can. There we go. American Airlines on X writes this, quote, "We're aware of reports that American Eagle Flight 5342, operated by PSA with service from Wichita, Kansas to Washington Reagan National Airport, has been involved in an incident. We will provide information as it becomes available." So that was what American Airlines, that was official confirmation from American Airlines with respect to this incident. So there's no doubt that this is an American Airlines related event. They did say this is PSA Airlines. I will add that's actually still technically American Airlines because it's a subsidiary. For whatever reason, they operate that way with some of these shorter haul regional flights. They call it regional anyways. But I'm going to go next to a video if I can. And you'll have to bear with me 1 second. I'm put this together, but it is a little still kind of coming together literally as I'm on here talking. So this is some footage, and I'm going to try to make this better for you to see if I'm able to. Let me go to browser setting. There we go. I'm going to try my best to give you a little bit better of what we're looking at here, and hopefully this shows up as it appears to on my end. So this is a live, or was a live camera from Kennedy Center in Washington, and you're going to see getting towards almost the middle part of the frame, that there's a plane. That is not the one we're talking about. This is going to be one lower on near the horizon itself in terms of field of view. So hopefully you can kind of keep an eye on the lower, we'll call it bright light. That is the landing light that the plane sort of puts out from the front as they come in to land or take off. So here we go. This, keep your eye just above the horizon, and you'll see a big explosion. And then it's up close. And apparently, and I'll pause for a second, there's a little, almost like an orb kind of light, so to speak. And this appears to be what is alleged to be the military helicopter. I have some, I'll say, alleged information on what this could be. I don't have that confirmed, and I want to stress allegedly what this was. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie to you. This is a little bit concerning about the helicopter part of things. I'll get to that in a second. I'm going to advance this forward now, and they're going to come together. And I'll just, again, reiterate, the plane is coming into land, and the helicopter appears to be flying at a 90-degree angle perpendicular into the aircraft. So it will collide here in 3, 2, 1, boom, and then falls out of the sky, both of them. Let me just play this back again for you. So you see the lights coming together, boom, big explosion, and both fall to the waters below. Obviously a very, very serious situation. Let me now say this, that this is some information that I've been listening to leading up to coming on here, and I'm going to make sure I have it in front of me so I get the facts right, even though I do remember what it said. I just want to make sure I have it right. This is from NBC4 Washington, WRC television. Reporters citing 2 sources as of 10:50 p.m. American Airlines PSA jetliner is said to be underwater and with about 7 feet of water above the fuselage. The fuselage is said to have broken in 2. Meanwhile, the helicopter is currently unable to be breached. To see if there are any survivors, you can make that what you will. That's a grim picture that paints in of itself, I would venture to say. And the helicopter is said to be unstable, allegedly. This is me interjecting. This might be the way it was worded. It might be the helicopter is not fully underwater, so it's unstable and upside down. So that's the off the cuff information, I might say, that I have there. There's still more I want to get to, and I'm going to try to keep this somewhat in the style of things and how I tend to do things. I try to keep things somewhat concise. I don't want to get too far into speculation here. Let me go ahead, and I'm bringing up, and I'm using X heavily here. It's a good tool to use. Obviously, you have to be discerning anytime you're looking at stuff. Now, this is what concerned me, because it's being alleged right now, and I don't have the flight tracker information, and I don't know where to get that information as of right now. If someone has that, they can send it to me. If you know me and you have my contact info, you can send it my way if you have access to that info. I do have the flight tracker for American Airlines flight, and I'll pull that up in a moment. What concerned me is this was allegedly, there's rumors going around, and I'm going to say it as a rumor because we just don't know. This, and I'm just going to have to share this with the disclaimer that I'm using X as a source, and From initial information appears PSA Airlines 5342, a CRJ 700 collided with PAT 25, an Army transport helicopter on the approach end of runway 33 at DCA Reagan National Airport. This kind of aircraft is thought to be used for VIP transport. Now, obviously not the president. He's in Marine One. Well, let me correct myself. Marine One, Air Force One, it's actually a designation. Basically, as I understand it, a fixed-wing aircraft, basically a jetliner that's carrying the president. It could be any aircraft, but if it is a jet, then that's designated officially Air Force One. Helicopter, meanwhile, that I'm not as certain about, but I would assume that that would be designated as Marine One. So obviously not that. We obviously have the Trump statement. Now, the thing that concerns me, and it apparently has been disproven, is the fact that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, who was just sworn in the other day, there's some speculation as to could this be military, we'll say higher ups. Thankfully, I can report that that is not true. There's a lot of rumors going around. Was this Pete Hegseth? Oh my goodness, was this Pete Hegseth, or was it someone near close to him? I can at least say for Pete Hegseth, it appears to be that is not him, and I'll tell you why. Because on X, and of course it could be anyone posting this, but I take this at face value that this is him or someone authorized for him to post. It says DOD actively monitoring, poised to assist if needed, prayers for all involved, and that is coming from Pete Hegseth's, it appears to be his personal X page. So thank God that was not him. At least I can safely presume that at the moment. But the fact that this aircraft appears to be one that would perhaps be carrying some VIP people, and and that's a fact also being reported on the TV station up in Washington. And they're still obviously on live talking as well as I'm talking myself. But they said that this, there's unconfirmed reports this was carrying a VIP interest, but they're not, the military source of theirs is not going beyond that right now. So, like I said, I've got more information that I think I need to get your way. First things first, a little more detail on what is, again, alleged to be the aircraft, or not aircraft, helicopter, I should say. This is a picture of a Sikorsky, UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter. It is often used in missions. It actually looks, just to my eye, like the ones you would typically see in a movie or even in news footage of military ops, underway. Is there anything else? I do apologize, folks. I'm trying to keep this somewhat cogent as I go forth, but I'm trying to also figure out what to go to next here. So this is now, this is going to be the flight path from FlightAware.com. And let me just back out to show first the flight path. It looks mostly uneventful, originating in Wichita, Kansas earlier today. And it's coming in to land. It looks to me, because I'm a kind of an aviation buff, to be honest with you. So this, to me, to my eye, looks like a perfectly routine flight path, eastbound, turns, makes a sort of a corkscrew maneuver, if I'm calling it right. And then, basically and I'll say this, I do know this having flown in myself, having flown into DCA before. This is going to be, there's very, very specific flight paths that you are only allowed to use those, and I'll get more to that in a second. I don't have the information, but I'm going off of knowledge that I know to be true. But this is the final bit of the flight path. It crosses from, it looks like, Maryland airspace into DC airspace. So this incursion took place over DC, in DC. And then it looks like, and I'm not exactly sure, I'm trying to get an approximate altitude. It looks like it was at approximately, and it seems about right, 400 feet on final approach, as I understand, to runway 33, coming from the southeast pretty much, making a final gentle turn. And it was beginning to emerge over the Potomac River. Had it made it to the airport, it actually would have been in Virginia, because the airport itself is mostly, technically speaking, in Virginia, but where this took place appears to be in D.C. And the reason I'm mentioning all that is because, yes, all these borders are literally just that close to each other, so that's why I have to be keen to clarify those kind of things. Let me now just say this. A couple of notes I'll add for my own input to this. So, first off, I know for a fact that jetliners are only allowed to make there's only a very small set of flight paths you're allowed to take for national security reasons. Why? If you deviate from that, you're deemed as a threat immediately, potential threat, because, well, the Capitol building, the White House, the Lincoln Memorial, all the other points of interest, Supreme Court, all those things are just so close to all this. In fact, when I flew into DCA several months back, I was flying, I didn't stay there per se. I just landed, got on another plane onward somewhere else. So it was a layover. And you could actually see the Capitol building vaguely, it was very small, but you could actually see it from inside the terminal depending on where you were at. So that close, and that happened. And I'll also say, concerning those flight paths, I know those apply to commercial jetliners, but because we're talking about a potential for this it's being described in the mainstream media as a police helicopter. Speculatively, it could be actually a military helicopter, potentially carrying a VIP interest. Whoever that is, we don't know. And I would also say that concerning that, there's a couple of things that come into play here. So, kind of crude of me to say this, but I actually binge watch Mayday air crash investigations quite a bit. Like I said, I have an aviation strong interest in that. And so I become somewhat aware of how they portray things. And I know for a fact that the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, is obviously the body of the federal government that would be responsible for investigating this, if I'm not mistaken. And also, they're going to need to recover the CVR, the cockpit voice recorders out of the PSA, American Airlines jet. It'll be like a red, or it's actually similar color to this, as a matter of fact. And as for the helicopter, I'm not aware of what technology would be on board to assist with forensic analysis, but it would be very interesting to see who was in the right and who shouldn't be there. And one thing I could say is that they certainly would have the ability to go back, the regulatory, those investigating, they would be able to look at basically you're talking back and forth with ATC, air traffic control. They would be almost certainly talking exclusively at this point to the tower frequency. Because by this point they would have already been prompted to switch from approach, Washington approach, or maybe national approach. I'm not sure how they name it there, given the proximity of other airports. But we'll call it Washington or Washington National approach over to Washington National Tower. We'll call it that. So very little doubt in my mind that it would have already been switched over. So I doubt it would be something like that where there was one person on one frequency, if you get what I mean. But what is concerning is the fact that this helicopter was that close to an active flight path that would not just be used for this aircraft, but for many others. And I would just like to know, who said, who presumed that it was okay to be in this airspace. So I would be very curious to know about these things, and these, of course, are things that we just don't know right now. So I'm just kind of ad-libbing a little bit of my own input to it. Let me check real quick before I sign off to see if there's any other information to pass along. Make sure I didn't miss anything. There is this information, just simply a soundbite from Fox News that someone was generous enough to record and post to X. This was White House Press Secretary Leavitt a little bit earlier this evening. Must have been during the 9 p.m. hour because this appears to be on the Hannity time slot. So yes, 9:51 p.m. this was said. So let me play this for you, what she had to say.
Breaking news, I have called over to my counterparts at the White House, and I can confirm that President Trump has been made aware of this situation. And tragically, it appears that a military helicopter collided with a regional jet at DCA Airport right here in Washington, D.C. That's all I can confirm at this point in time. And I can just say that the thoughts and the prayers of the entire Trump administration are with all those that are involved. And we ask the public in this area to please stand by for guidance from law enforcement and allow them to do their jobs as they attempt to save lives right now. Breaking news.
So that was Leavitt, the press secretary, speaking on Hannity on Fox News a little earlier this evening. And I do apologize. You probably didn't notice unless you were kind of an eagle-eye viewer, but there was a X comment to that post that was clearly not appropriate. My apologies, I didn't catch that in time. But anyways, it is kind of, as they say, live television, so of sorts. But anyways, that's about it for me tonight. I was, like I said, I wasn't planning to come on tonight and talk, let alone do a live broadcast. But I decided, something, all the pieces are mostly there to do it. So I'm just going to go for it. And I will be watching this, obviously, but I can't imagine that there will be much more information tonight because they're going to have to, and I'm just looking over at the TV. That's why I'm kind of looking over. But they're basically, what I can describe to you as a scene of just a line of first responders along the water's edge. And what brings back to my remembrance is, I forget the flight number, but Air Florida back in, I believe, 1982. That was the last, I believe, accident, and I'm using the word accident because, of course, there's 9/11 in between, but accident. The last major jetliner accident in this immediate vicinity that I know of would be Air Florida in 1982 when they took off due to improper de-icing. As I recall, I believe the flight crew took for granted, basically, and assumed that their aircraft was airworthy. And if you know anything about wings, you have to maintain... You basically cannot have ice because that interferes with the lift, sort of the wing cutting through the air, providing that lift. But all that to say, obviously this is thankfully a rare incident, but it is a devastating one to say the least. I will mention that it's being said that some 60 passengers, that's 60 passengers, were thought to be on, and that's an approximate number, were thought to be on that plane. And I can tell you, apparently it was a CRJ 700, and a CRJ 700, I've flown on that particular aircraft as myself. Not this one, I should say, but the type. It's quite a small aircraft. And in my mind, it's not that hard to imagine with enough force the helicopter striking it, breaking the fuselage in two. So that seems to the alleged report from that reporter, citing two sources of his. Apparently, it's not hard in my mind to conceptualize the thought that that such a force could occur and break the fuselage in two. So CRJ 700, by the way, is a smaller version of the CRJ 900, both of which are typically used on shorter flights and by regional airliners. So that's it for me on the Citizen Report for tonight. And tragic situation. May God rest the souls of those that were on board. If there be any survivors, may they be found in time and proper assistance rendered to them. And I will tell you, Just on a different note, and I'll be brief to say it, I felt earlier today on a personal level just such a thickness from a spiritual standpoint. And I would now say in retrospect, something was afoot. And I even told I'll just say this much. I even told someone in my family that something's afoot. Something is, I forget the wording I used, but basically something doesn't feel right. And I said that just earlier today. I couldn't quite describe it to you other than to say it was a heaviness. And it was just like an irritation, a heaviness of sorts. And what a way to cap off such a day. So anyways, folks, God bless each and every one of you. And I would just say in closing, by the way, as a Christian, we've not been given a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and of sound mind. And you know something? It's kind of like this. I don't always, I'm not 100% cognizant 100% of the time, but it's kind of like you have the faith when you get on an aircraft to say, because I'm on this aircraft, that means Jesus is also on this aircraft, and therefore it's going to make it there safely. So that's why I say that, because I don't want people being struck with fear over something like this. And I also know, and I thought about doing a report to say this, and I didn't do it about a day or two ago, to say that I believed this is YouTube, I shouldn't say the word, but an FF event I thought to be imminent. So we'll see how this develops. This could just be a pure tragedy, but one final tidbit, there is an 800 number, and I'm reading directly off the screen here. Let me get the captions turned off if I can real quick so I can read this out to you. American Airlines has an 800 number. If you happen to be someone with a loved one on board, not likely, but if you happen to be, there is an 800 number for you to call, and that's 1-800-679-8215. Let me just double check that number again, because they took it off on screen literally as I was about to read out those last two numbers, but I believe I read it right. But again, folks, this is live, so my apologies. I'm trying to keep this concise, but it's not a packaged broadcast like it might normally be. Let me go to AmericanAirlines.com. I'm pretty much done, by the way, folks, but real quick and good on American Airlines. They got a banner right there on the homepage. So I'm trying to get that information verified, but okay, they got it up again. And it's 1-800-679-8215. I'll repeat that again. 800-679-8215. That's American Airlines. If you have a loved one requesting information, you can call that number. Let me read out this statement, since it is now apparently a statement I was not aware of before. This is from American Airlines Newsroom website. It says, quote, American Eagle Flight 5342 en route from Wichita, Kansas to Washington, D.C. was involved in an accident at DCA. The flight was operated by PSA Airlines with a CRJ 700. There were 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board the aircraft. Our concern is for the passengers and crew on board the aircraft. We are in contact with authorities and assisting with emergency response efforts. If you believe you may have loved ones on board Flight 5342, call American Airlines toll-free at 800-679-8215. Those calling from outside the U.S. can visit news.aa.com for additional phone numbers. Family members in Canada, Puerto Rico, or the Virgin Islands can call 800-679-8215 directly. American Airlines will continue to release information as it becomes available. Please monitor news.aa.com and American's official account at American Air for the latest information. So that's what American Airlines had to say. For those tuning in late or after the broadcast, let me very quickly put this up full. If I can, I'll make it so it all is on screen despite the logo. There we go. And you can pause it if you want and, take that information in if you wish to do so. Of course, you can go see this yourself on their website. So that's it for me, folks. I will probably be back on in the coming days with another report if credible information emerges, but it is a very active situation even as I'm still talking here. We're 11:34 p.m. Eastern time as I'm talking, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off for tonight. God bless each and every one of you, and don't forget my website, thecitizenreport.net, if you need information on where to access this broadcast. Typically, they are recorded and uploaded, but in this case, obviously, a live stream. And I will see you again very soon here on the Citizen Report. And typically, this will be on Rumble as a recorded episode, but for the time being, I am limited on where I can do live shows. That's why I'm using YouTube. So go to Rumble, keyword search The Citizen Report, or just come to the website at thecitizenreport.net. But that's it for me. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a good evening.